We are live here. I'm with Madeleine Holly-Rosing. The Starbucks is extra noisy right now, so this is what's going to happen, right?
Yes,
By the time when this conversation's done, it'll be quiet.
of course,
That's how the universe works.
absolutely. That's just the way it works. And I don't know, what time zone are you in?
Right now, it's 7 p.m. my time.
Okay, so you're an hour ahead of me. So yeah, by 8 it'll start calming down. You're getting all the after work and
Oh
stuff.
yeah, I expect this to be over in like 20 minutes. I'll be like, oh my god, I can hear you perfectly now. It's like wonderful, right? But I mean, but like I was saying off the air, so ladies and gentlemen, this is Madeleine Holly-Rosing. She is one of the coolest comic creators out there today. She is maybe not quite a one-woman badass, but she's definitely very good at what she's done. She's been at it for a very long time. So even before Kickstarter was cool, you were there, and I remember.
And failing. And
Yeah,
failing. Remember, I failed my first Kickstarter. So yes.
yeah. Well, I don't think that's the end of the world. I think honestly, like failure is a great teacher, and I think one of the best things about failure is it makes you reassess how you're doing things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was the wrong strategy at the time. But yeah, it was really hard to see it fail. But it also didn't fail because we saw that over 200 people backed this project that came from nowhere. And no one knew me or anything. And they clearly loved what we were doing. And, you know, at the time, we were looking to we'd already produced the first 3 issues. So we were looking to produce the last 3 issues and put it together in a big, beautiful trade, which, to pay for Emmy and everything, it cost about 25 grand. I mean, that's just the printing and everything. Absolutely. And, but we made like over $7,000. And we looked, I said, okay, well, let's scale this back and do it one issue at a time, which we did. But so we came back a couple months later just to print issue 3, and one of the stretch goals was to print issue 4, and we made it. So it was pretty awesome. And so historically, we knew what we could do. And when I say we, I'm including my husband in this because basically he has to deal with me while I'm running a Kickstarter. So and listening to me rant and rave. Unfortunately, there's a lot of less ranting and raving over Kickstarters now because I've done 11 of them now, and so I kind of know what to do.
I know what I'm doing. Drink, right? I'm sure. But sometimes, like I've learned this in my life. Sometimes failure often is the precursor to learning and growing and doing things better. And thing is with business, and we're going to talk about it from a business standpoint. Like you could obviously, yes, you had to join the Boston Metaphysical Society. By the way, folks, it's a great comic. You should check it out. I still got those issues. I found them in my storage locker. I'm slowly like figuring out what I'm going to keep, what's going to go with my storage. It's been years since I came back to. My story is I went back from Calgary, from Canmore, Alberta, which was then from Windsor, Ontario, which was then from Vancouver, BC, and all the while my stuff's been in there for years. So now it's like, what the hell do I care about, right? With all this stuff. So I'm going through. I didn't take it on my first go through because I got my Aurora work on my podcast.
Mm-hmm.
But the second thing I was looking at it, like a box of books to take with me, and I see yours. I find your book actually of all the things. It was the third box I looked at, and it was a tough decision. It was really, really tough decision. It's like I need this and I need this. I went with the lighter box, or maybe next time I'll actually have your comics. So.
Yeah, you must have a few of the early issues, like 1, 2, and 3, or something like that. Yeah,
1 and 2, because again, I set up the air. I met you at Phoenix, long time ago. Way before maybe I just started the podcast. I don't know. This might be the first time I know it's the first time you're on here. I don't know if it's the first time you've done it. I think it is, but I think
I'm not sure. And if we did, it was a long, long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah. And I do remember meeting you and asking for it. You know what I mean? I remember that.
Yeah.
And again, I get you if you don't remember me. Again, I look like a very different person than what I did back in the day then too. Right? I have teeth now, which is a difference than when you saw me. But I remember meeting you. You were awesome. You're very sweet, and I got your book. I got you're one of the few things I took out of Phoenix with me. So
Yeah, those are the days when I was doing like 20 cons a year,
yes,
just trying to build up, a fan base and email and just everything. And yeah, I don't do 20 cons a year anymore.
no, probably more like 5 if that.
I do about 9,
Okay.
but that also includes some of the smaller like steampunk ones.
Yeah, which is your audience base? Of course, you're doing those,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
No,
So
no,
yeah,
that makes
it
total
also
sense.
depends on what I can get into. Like I got into Emerald City this year, which is the first time since Reed Pop took over. I could go back to Seattle. I didn't get into New York, but I got in last year. So, which I love. New York was awesome.
Yeah, imagine it would be. It's one of the cons on my list. I've done San Diego once. It's an awesome show, but I prefer it as a guest than the vendor. I think a vendor, there's just so much. It's expensive, and there's a lot of pressure to actually do stuff there.
Yeah.
And but as a convention goer, it's like Disneyland, man. It's just like freaking Disneyland.
I would completely agree because my husband and I used to go to San Diego Comic Con once upon a time, as we call it, civilians. And it would be great because we'd spend, 3 or 4 hours there. We'd visit friends, we'd buy some stuff, we'd go have lunch, we'd go to the movies, and it was just chill and fun. And now we work 12 hours a day.
Yeah, no, because you have to, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is, I think that the really intimidating thing about San Diego is this, because if you've done it as a fan, you realize this. I miss stuff. All those days I was there, and still, it's that big a show.
Yeah.
So you're like, not everybody's gonna come and see me. Oh no. How am I gonna get everybody?
Yeah, I was really happy at the amount of people who stopped by to say hello. Because we really couldn't do it. My husband has a panel. He's had a panel there now for like 5 or 6 years, called No Tow Trucks Beyond Mars. He works at JPL, so he brings a bunch of other JPL folks in, and they talk about a lot of fun stuff. And he has his own groupies, which is entertaining.
So Miss Madeleine's husband, how you doing? Glad you got groupies. I mean, cool. I mean, one of those side effects of doing shows, right? But
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, so, we've grown. Someone reminded me, actually a fan reminded me that 2022 is our 10th year anniversary.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Congratulations. And with the 10th year anniversary, we essentially have 10 issues out. The original 6-issue miniseries and the 4 sequels. We have the audio drama, the novel, the anthology, the prose anthology, and of course the Kickstarter book.
Mm-hmm. That's a lot.
We've been busy.
Like, yeah, you've been kicking ass. You make me feel like a lazy slacker. I open my big mouth every day. That's what I do for most of my living, and then I occasionally write stuff. That's what I do, and I'm dabbling with the drawing. I'm almost good. Don't tell anybody though. I might almost be good. Almost.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not. I can't draw.
I couldn't either until the pandemic. So I decided. So for me, so this is what I decided to do. So I have 10 rules to success. The 8th rule is stay uncomfortable. What was the most uncomfortable thing I could do? Well, I can't draw. And for me, it was a bit of a mental block. Like, what if I suck? And then I had a wonderful thought one day during the pandemic, which is, so what if you suck? Have fun. Yeah. So I've drawn with Mom Park. I've drawn with Elsa Garza. I've drawn with Mel. I've drawn with, I just drew with Connie Jalise. I've been drawing with these really, really people way better than me. And it's been a wild trip. And then I've also been kind of quietly encouraging my author friends to draw with me too, because what's happened because it doesn't matter if you suck. It's the idea that from a storytelling standpoint, you play with something new, and in that process, you get better.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true. I have like the remnants of COVID, so I'm like
That's
still
okay.
the cough
Yeah,
is hanging in there.
yeah. Strong
Yeah,
like
during the pandemic, I actually started doing flash fiction
mm,
just to be able to be creative, but keep it small and contained, and not have to invest a lot of my time and emotional effort. That a graphic novel or a novel or something like that. So that was a lot of fun, and from that, I actually came up with some other ideas of stuff that I want to do. So
yeah.
I mean,
I,
yeah,
I I discovered flash fiction too, but for me, it was ad copy because I figured that ad copy and flash fiction are essentially the same thing. The only difference
they,
is
yeah,
the
they're close
story.
to it.
Yeah, it's this type of story you're telling. With ad copy, it's I'm walking you across the bridge, right? With flash fiction, I can take a moment in time and make it as interesting as possible. Now, that's harder for me to do, right? Walking people across the bridge, I've gotten okay at it. So maybe it's my big mouth. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, in another life, I was a marketing director, so I was used to writing ad copy, and so like pulling together copy for trailers and for Kickstarter and stuff it's a pain, but it has to be done.
Oh yeah, no, it's an important something I realized. Like a lot of authors need to learn how to actually do. It's that I think ad copy is actually an essential skill for any author to pick
Yeah.
up, even if you're not great at it, because it doesn't matter. What matters is that you're actually uh, you're learning how to sell, and that's a very important skill with the way I think publishing has gone. I
Yeah.
mean, you're the norm now. Once upon a time, you were the rebel without a clue or something to that effect. I now think you're a clueless person. I think you knew what you were doing, but you were kind of going out off your own limb. Now, with the way publishing's gone in comics and books both, right, creating your own brand niche, whatever the case may be,
Yeah.
is a necessity, right? Because even if you do get into traditional publishing at this point in the ball game, whether it's comics or prose, you have a shelf life, you have a window,
Yeah.
right? And so you have to build your brand, whatever that looks like, right?
Yeah. No.
Whatever, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And so yeah, no, we had there's the Boston Metaphysical brand. There's no doubt about that, and I actually have a number of female fans who have come to it because they know or they've discovered that women are not objectified in Boston Metaphysical. They're my artists are women, so they're being drawn from the female gaze as opposed to the male gaze, and they just it's just kind of nice. And not that there's anything wrong with TNA and comics. It sells, and but there's
Cheese.
a spot for everybody.
Well, see, cheesecake has their place in the universe, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Right. Adam Hughes, Steph Wilson, you name. Like, there's lots of people that do kind of like their own style or their own,
Yeah,
and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think you can
yeah.
have fun with that. But I mean, and this is going to sound like I speak as a guy who does have to look at the female anatomy as from a perspective. No, women are more than that. I mean, honestly, even I want a good story, right?
Yeah.
I don't care if it's a man or a woman. I just want a good story, whatever that actually looks like. So, I mean,
Yeah. No, that's true.
and your perspective on that would be different than mine, just based on your own experiences, right? So, right. So, but I mean, you've kind of proclaimed yourself in the steampunk realm of things. So I should ask this wonderful question.
Uh,
So why did you claim in the name of steampunk?
it was pretty much by accident, almost. Um, when I have an MFA in screenwriting and from UCLA, and while I was there, uh, my last year there, I took the TV track, and there was basically two main stories that I pitched. to my class and of which one I was going to go write the pilot for. And both of them I really liked. One of them obviously was Boston Metaphysical, and one of them was something else, which I won't talk about because I have plans for that later. And basically, Boston Metaphysical, the class voted which one I would go forward on, and BMS won by one vote.
Wow.
One vote. It was very, very close. And because obviously the class was pretty much split, they liked both. And the woman I was working with, who was, because we worked as writers, we had little groups that were a writer, producer, director, and everything within a group. My producer, she says, "Are you upset? Because I know you really like this other story." And I said, "I'm not. This is all good. We'll go this way." And in developing it, it was a friend of mine who actually suggested that it be developed in the steampunk world. It originally started out as a period detective piece, set in the late 1800s. And he said, this would be perfect developed as steampunk. And I had heard of steampunk, hadn't really read any, but I went and did research and read, and I said, you're right, this would be perfect. So I redeveloped it as a steampunk universe, and here we are.
You created a steampunk world. I'm really curious what the other one was, though, because I can hear it in your voice. I can hear it. You really like it. You really, 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 really like it.
Yeah.
And okay, I'm gonna ask this. This is actually an interesting one. Did you like that one more? I'm just curious on this one.
I think at the time I did.
Okay.
But, being in a classroom with a bunch of people who are extremely talented writers and producers or going to be producers tell me that this is the one I should go with, it clearly had legs and substance to it. And I think that's what they were telling me. That was the note behind the note, as we like to say. And they were right, because as we were in production for the first 6 issues, I decided, hey, why don't I write just some short stories and novellas as companion pieces to start developing canon to enlarge the world and really get deeper into it. And so I started doing that, and then just, publishing them on Amazon, like one at a time, until I had enough to put together for the anthology, which is Prelude now. And it really opened up the world for me being able to do that. And at the time, I was the only comic creator doing that. And this was 10 years ago. This is 8 to 10 years ago.
Oh yeah. No,
because I was actually on podcasts with people asking me, why did you do this? You're the only one I've ever seen doing this. And now you see it. You do see comic creators writing prose companion pieces to their comics, which is great. I mean, I don't think I invented it. I just think I made people possibly aware of it. I don't know. I can't imagine that I invented it.
I think, no, you didn't. My opinion is that goes back, I think, the earliest I've seen kind of like that mixture, the closest. Mm-hmm. So the closest thing I've seen to that mixture in a comic straight up is Watchmen.
Yeah.
Way back in the 80s, they actually merged prose in some really clever spots in the story. Mm-hmm. But you did something a little different. You went beyond that in that you... I think where I would give you a ton of credit, this is where I think I gave you, it is... You realize, I think before a lot of other people did, is I can tell my story a bunch of different ways. And you, having a bunch of different strengths, being a screenwriter, a prose creator, all that stuff, you're like, you know what? What would that story look like this? What would that story look like that? Because I imagine when you wrote Boston Metaphysical Society as a prose book, whenever you finally... Which one came first, the prose or the comic came first, right?
The comic came first.
Yeah, so, but when you did the prose... I'm going to really bet it clicks some things in your head about the comedy. You're like, I never thought about it like that before,
Oh yeah,
right? Right.
yeah,
So what happens is what you realize is what stories do. It doesn't matter what kind of story it is it stimulates a feeling, whatever that feeling might be,
yes.
right? Right.
Hmm.
So what you're doing is in every medium you tell your story in, you're trying to mimic that feeling as much as possible. I'm doing an Alice in Wonderland Greek mythology mashup. That's
Okay,
mine, right? That's mine. Alice is Pandora. She opens the box and a certain Cheshire cat gets inside her head. So she's trying to figure
okay,
out who she is and what
that's
happened
fun.
to her.
Uh-huh.
Her Wonderland's a lot more Greek, tragic, right? So
Okay.
the first story, she wakes up in an asylum, right? And she's trying to remember who she is, and the playing cards are her jailers. But in the second story, she's playing croquet against Jason of the Argonauts because it's Alice in Wonderland. Why wouldn't you play croquet with Jason of the
Of
Argonauts, right?
course, of course.
Right. But in that absurdity, I realized I accidentally invented a board game, and I realized that I can tell a story in a board game much like I can anywhere else. Like it's all storytelling.
Yes.
So as long as my board game and my story are feeling the exact same way, I done good. Now if they're
Yeah.
right now, I can expand the world in a very neat way with the board game that I can't maybe in the story. And in the story, I can do as much more detail than I can in the board game, right? But
Hmm.
either way, I'm still telling the same story. Alice chasing the queen, and it has to deal with all the obstacles in front of her. In a game, that looks very different than it does in a story, but ultimately, I'm telling the same story. Does that make sense, or am I on
Yeah,
something?
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, that's
And you
no,
did it.
that's a lot of fun. I mean, Gail Carriger, who did the Solus and the Parasol Protectorate series, amongst many others. Um, we've been on a number of panels together at steampunk events and stuff, and it's always fascinating to listen to her speak. She's an incredibly intelligent woman, but her and I hope I'm paraphrasing this correctly. um, she looks as history because she doesn't really she does do an alternate history, but she says I don't change the events that happen, but instead add vampires and werewolves and other supernatural events. She changes how it happened, but not what happened,
Yeah.
and which is totally cool and works brilliantly.
It's how you play, right? You're playing with the stuff. History is the ultimate story. I think one of the most interesting. It's going to be interesting in the next 20 years or so. We're on digital, right? So we have
Yeah,
a very unique take on history in the last 20, 30 years and from the last 1,000 years. We have an
right.
idea. We might think Tutankhamun is a dick, but we may not. But we don't know for sure. We're just putting together from the pieces we have.
Hmm.
We're going to have everything recorded somewhere, somehow, some way. Everything's going to be recorded. Everything's going to have its good, bad, and different takes, and
Yeah.
it's going to be a lot clearer, a lot more detailed. So, but but even in that, you're still going to tell a story because, okay, somewhere, and over the rainbow, this conversation is going to be on the interweb somewhere, and they'll
Hmm.
say, so that Madeleine gal was really, really, really smart, and the other guy just had a big mouth. That might be one story, or maybe they'll say, he's a really, really smart guy, and she's really quiet for some reason, or maybe, or no, like there's a million
Yeah,
interpretations to a conversation. And the idea,
absolutely.
and so the idea of playing history is the ultimate what if, because we think we know, but we're not. We're pretty sure dinosaurs roamed the earth. We got bones and structure and skeletons, but we don't know, and we think they're based on what we know that they did certain things.
Yeah.
Maybe they did. The Triceratops actually had a patty cake high five to each other when they greeted each other. You don't know,
You don't know.
right? As silly as that might sound, right? There are things that we can only imagine, and that's
Right.
the cool thing about history is there's so much to imagine, so much that we can see and play with. Like your friend, like oh my, like I decided that I'm gonna have an empire of werewolves, or maybe a vampires, or maybe like necromancers and whatever, and you can still have the same events, but now you're like, I can have fun with it, because really, who's to say, especially some of our organizations in history, that they weren't ghouls at heart? Who knows, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, and also whenever you watch something or you read something, you bring your own emotionality into it, how you're feeling in that moment, which is what makes emails so treacherous. And how, emojis evolved so you could, when you're writing an email, you can add some emotion to it so people will know that, oh, I'm joking, or I'm having fun, or this is just, a light and fun comment. Because, if you come into just an email from having a really bad day, that's going to just completely color your perception of what the other person may or may not actually meant. And so, emojis and whatever are kind of what saves us from that.
Well,
Because there's no emotion, there's no facial expressions with, with emails that you can read. Um,
oh, I'm such a dry person to begin with, right? My humor, like, yeah, I think you got this really on some of my humor. Just I come off very dry. I can only imagine some of my humor. He doesn't really mean that, does he? Right? And if they know me, it's just Josh. He's just being an obnoxious ass, right? But it's, yeah, like, I try my absolute best when it comes, even on Facebook. All right, even on Facebook, give people the benefit of the doubt,
yeah,
because
you have to, yeah.
you can't. It's really easy to misinterpret stuff. I mean, I talked about an email story. I did a immigration show and my co-host and me were having some issues, but I came across an email just saying something. I didn't mean it in that one regard, but she went completely over the edge. Then she realized it's like, nope, this is just an email. We're not on the same page here. That's the problem. We're not actually on the same page. We're not looking at this the same way. And I'm like, okay, good. So we actually talked. And we did a Zoom call. We looked at each other. We could actually interpret. But there was a moment that was like, no, I did not mean that at all. Where did you get that from? Like, where did you pull that from?
Yeah, and it's hard to say from, whether it's like I said, having a bad day, or there was a word or a phrase that triggers a memory of something that similar happened that was negative, and but you didn't mean it that way. So yeah, it's communication is hard. Communicating well is difficult.
So when there's a miscommunication, there's three words I think about: intention, impact, interpretation. 1 and 2 cannot be argued with. You have no idea what the intention in the person's heart is, and then you can't argue the impact of what you said. Third thing's interpretation. How I see it, how you might see it, might be very, very different. And in that understanding of what that difference is, maybe we can find a common ground, or at the very least, a friendlier agreement to disagreement, right? So you go to me, oh, he's not a complete asshole. He might be wrong, but he's not a complete asshole. He didn't mean it like that. He meant it like this. Okay, I got you, right? And that's human. And we live in a much more digital age, and nuance is a hard art form, even at the best of times, to understand. But when it comes to words, it's like, okay, I think I'm writing funny here, especially like when you write humor. That's why humor is so freaking hard, because it's like, this is not going to be funny to somebody. Somebody's going to take this literally and think, what the heck is he writing here? And be right in that opinion. And on the flip side, I could be like the most harmless thing in the world. And that's why humor in particular is one of the hardest things to write, because it's so subjective to that perception that you have of the joke.
Yeah, it's also cultural.
Yeah.
Comedy is very, very cultural, and generational.
Somewhat, yes. Yeah. I'm at that age in my life where I'm starting to talk to clouds and I can hear them. You know, that old Simpsons, and that's an old Simpsons joke. Old man yells at clouds, right? It's an old joke. I can say that, and sometimes I'll go, "Shut up, clouds," and people will get it and laugh. Sometimes I get someone really young and they won't get it at all. I'm like, okay, I am old. I have gotten old. right? But and then I tried, and I don't watch TV much anymore, so I'm not even cool anymore. I don't even know what's in or out. I'm just. I think when you get older, you just get more dazed and confused, and not as sure about how life works. That's maybe my interpretation. You seem like you got a better handle. Maybe I'm wrong, but maybe you seem like it. You seem like it anyway.
Yeah, well, I mean, as far as we stopped watching regular TV like 3 or 4 years ago, if not more, and just stream everything at this point. Um, just because network TV seems a little dated most of the time. But
The only reason it's still alive is you're talking about generation is because of generation 70 plus. It's the
yeah,
only reason it still exists. And I know this. This is how I know this. Because when I was during the pandemic, when I was in Windsor, right, all the commercials were targeted for people 60 and up. And I realized it's odd they have no young people commercials anymore. And I'm like, no, it actually makes sense. No young people are watching television anymore. So why would they have a young person commercial here?
Yeah,
right.
It's your demographic. Yeah, it's their target demographic, and the advertisers are willing to pay for that time slot because they know who's watching the shows.
That's right.
Yeah, except for maybe the CW.
Yeah. So whereas streaming, I don't stream very much either at this point in the ball game because I don't create anything. If I stream too much, I am watching The Boys finally. I'm finally watching The Boys.
Oh yeah.
I'm enjoying. I read the comic. So for me it was like okay, I have an idea what this is gonna be like, and it's one of the rare times I'll say this: the show's better.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I have not read the comics. We've watched the show. We enjoy it. We have to take it in small bits, in that I can only watch maybe, say we've been gone and there's 2 episodes. I can watch a max of 2 episodes, and then I have to go watch something else for a little while, and then I'll come back to it because it's just
dark.
Oh, it's so dark and so over the top violent, and there's only so many times you can see someone's head explode.
Yeah, that's fair. That is totally fair. I can't fault you for that.
But we do watch it. We have really enjoyed it. It's fascinating, and my husband is not a superhero fan. In fact, I'm not really a superhero fan. I mean, I enjoy them anyway. Like I enjoyed Thor and the MCU movies and everything because they're fun. But the reason being is that it just tends to be a slugfest, and then there's just the rest of us peons down here. And what's nice about The Boys is that these superpowered people are awful human beings.
Most of them, yes. Almost all of them. Not all of them, but most of them.
Almost all of them. They have no moral center whatsoever.
No.
And when you have that kind of power, that's easy for that to happen.
Well, that's why someone like Annie in that show is really, really refreshing.
Yeah,
she's not a saint. By the time she's not a saint, but she's not a monster either, right? She's somewhere in the middle. I've enjoyed Maeve's story because it's like she's slowly getting her conscience back, little bit by little bit, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
Homelander in the show is slightly smarter and slightly weaker than he was in the comic, in the sense that he's a lot more unhinged in the show. He's even more unhinged than he is in the comic.
All right.
But in the comic, he was still unhinged, just not to that degree. He was more violent but less unhinged. Here, he's more unhinged and less violent. I think the actor Anthony Starr has done a good job of making him really scary, because he is a monster. That's like, how the heck are they gonna play him down? Right?
Yeah, I mean, he's what Superman would have been if he was just a sociopath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a narcissist too, a complete narcissistic sociopath. That's what he is.
Yeah, that's what he is. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. He has no. His boss, who's not afraid of him at all, shows him no respect, treats him like dog shit.
Yeah.
And the big difference between the two of them is So as much as a monster as his boss is a monster too. His boss
Yes.
though has a certain code of conduct he conducts himself by. He doesn't
Yeah.
ever break or deviate from it. He's a businessman in the worst ways, but he's a businessman. But I love the way he says, like, listen, we are not a superhero company. We are a pharmaceutical company. Homelander sees bought as a superhero company. And I think it's because it's about him. It's totally
Yes.
about him. Because if it's a superhero company, he's the biggest, most important thing there is. If it's a pharmaceutical company, he's just a product. And that would be a hard pill to swallow. That would be a very, very, very hard pill to swallow. It's like, to us, you're just something we made, and you suck. You're terrible, and we fucked you up, and I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're
And
terrible.
I love Giancarlo Esposito as
Yes.
yeah, he will forever be Gus. We all know that. But he's a marvel to watch. He's just a tremendous actor. I mean, the whole casting crew is like
No, they're all great. They're all good. They're all good.
they're all great. And I love how they've written Annie because she looks like your stereotypical dumb blonde, but there's nothing dumb about her. She's a very complex human being, and like you said, she has her faults, but she's basically a good person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What my favorite character of the seven, because he's such a douche, but in like almost the most harmless of ways, is the Deep.
He's just so freaking creepy.
No, but he's hilarious because like he's the guy that went into the cult. He's the guy that he's going down all these rabbit holes. Because again, he's in his own way, he's as narcissistic as Homelander in his own way.
He's just really stupid. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's oddly his saving grace because if he was smarter, he'd be dangerous, right? Yeah. But because he's so dumb, right, and he's so because he has his moments where he's actually almost likable. Almost, he's got like almost. And he does something incredibly dumb, and you're like, oh, right, and he's my favorite because he's the character that has changed the least of all of them, and I think it's hilarious, right?
Yeah, it makes me wonder as the group of actors if he's actually the smartest of all the group of actors, because it's hard to play dumb that effectively.
Well, he might. Well, no, he's a great actor, right? Like he's a great actor.
Oh yeah, he's a terrific actor.
Like like in comparison, another guy I thought was a great actor back in the day was Matt LeBlanc when he played Joey Tribbiani. He actually played a bad actor on television. That is hard to do. Like to be that, you're either that way on purpose or you're very, very, very like. That's Matt LeBlanc looking at actors that he's come up with and looking at them going, this is why you were a screw up. This is why you were a screw up. This is why you were a screw up. Right. And it's just like, oh my gosh, this is so true. Because I've been on set. I've worked on sets too. Right. So it's like, I've seen some of that. You're like, you're acting because this is how you stay alive. Oh my God. Right. And then there's that moment where that eureka moment. Right. But same thing, like Deep, like that kind of like playing dumb. It's hard. It's really, really hard, and not show your credibility. That's the other thing too. It's not about like you gotta keep your credibility somewhat alive with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. The Deep is credibly stupid. I guess that's like I don't know if that's a compliment or not, but the Deep is credibly stupid. Okay, so you've done this for a very long time. I mean, I'm not going to make an age joke because even COVID or not, you can probably put me in a chokehold of death and I'd be on the ground like twitching, right? So, but what I'm asking is, what made you want to do this? Like, what was the comic? What was the story that made you go, this is what I want to do? Or the movie even?
Well, it's a little more straightforward in that when I wrote the TV pilot for Boston Metaphysical, it got sent around. It did reasonably well at competitions, but it was at the time steampunk was not in the mainstream, and it would have been very expensive to produce this. So it was suggested to me that I turn it into a graphic novel and then use that to sell it back to Hollywood. Well, the funny thing happened during this little journey And then I discovered I really like writing comics, and I really enjoyed the independent creator community, and I like defining my own path and making
Yeah.
my own path. And because, Hollywood, it's all dependent on gatekeepers, and I understand why they have to have gatekeepers. It's part of the process. But, with crowdfunding changed everything. Um, there are no more gatekeepers but yourself. And so you have to decide, what you're going to do with that. And so I basically created my own career.
Oh,
And,
I
and
thought I thought you were going for world domination there for a second. I thought that was your master plan. We're gonna take over the world, one Kickstarter at a time. No.
No, it is. It's, you create your own career, and I run my own business. I actually do this full time now. Yeah. And it's exhausting. I actually need help. I'm in those growing pains, and I'm still trying to figure out how to do that. Um,
Oh, I get where you're at. You're at I need to expand my organization.
yeah,
The money is not quite
right there.
there. You're right there. It's close. It's like almost like an itch. But you realize you're going to take that plunge inevitably
Yeah,
because it's going to be how you grow. You're at
correct.
that page. Oh, that's a tricky stage. That is a tricky
It's a
stage.
very tricky stage, and it's also exhausting because right me. It's just me. My husband helps when he can. Like when we have Kickstarter fulfillment, you can see behind me, this is fulfillment center right behind me here.
Yes.
So everything gets out. Which reminds me, if anyone watches this, I'll probably do a Kickstarter update in the next few days. But the books for Volume 2 are actually in port, but they're still on the ship. So
Lovely.
yeah,
Lovely.
so we're waiting for them to get off the ship, and then it takes about 3 days to get through customs, and another day or so to get to me. So I'm hoping.
You're about 2 weeks. I used to work in the shipping industry once upon a time. You're about 2 weeks from getting your books, give or
Yeah,
take.
that's what I kind of figured, which is fine because I put, August delivery date, but of course they're going to show up when I'm at Emerald City.
Yep.
So my husband will have to stay home and for the books when they arrive on the big pallet and get them in the house. Poor guy. But
It sounds like though he's doing it with a smile. I mean, it's got to be. You might grumble in the moment, but I mean, the fact of the matter is, you built something from scratch that
yeah,
is now sustainable, and like I'm trying to do like advertising for creatives because I figure it's a good service while I'm building my own books and properties up.
mm-hmm.
Right? I'm making money, but I'm not living wage making money yet. Right?
Yeah.
I might get there next year. Like I'm close to that. But again, same thing's going to happen too. I'm going to end up. At some point I'm going to hire somebody. I'm going to have to work with people that are going to want to work with me, and it's a process. Like you don't do these things on your own. And he's watched you grow. I imagine maybe this is. I hope this isn't like a pat on the head kind of thing. He's probably proud of you, like of everything you've accomplished.
Oh no, I think so. It is kind of funny because we did the audio drama, right? The Ghost Ship, which by the way is out now that you can download on your favorite platform and listen to. I had a terrific production team and Eddie Louise and her husband Chip Michael, and they want to go ahead and do additional seasons. And in fact, people who listened to it, they said, "Okay, when is the next season coming out?" Because I really like this. And Eddie Louise was the script editor and what I would call my overall mentor on this project. But she knows I don't have time to write audio drama. I mean, I wrote the one for the Ghost Ship, but I just don't have time to do that. And so she's going like, okay, me. So yeah, she and Chip may soon be part of the audio division of which actually called Queen of Mercia. That's my corporate name. But yeah, the audio division of Boston Metaphysical Society. So yeah, she may actually be writing the next season. But I mean, yeah, I would give her the story and then say, go
So you,
forth, and produce an outline.
yeah, so you're going to be the producer then when you get to that point. It's like, I'm gonna be a producer. I'm gonna take a step back and give it to
Well,
you.
I'm actually already the producer because I did produce the first one.
Yeah,
So
but
yeah,
just the producer, not wearing every hat anymore. I'm like, hey, here, you can have this hat, and then you maybe jump, skip, and maybe do a cartwheel and a handstand. It's a little less of responsibility. But no,
yeah.
I mean that's a good place to be. And congratulations on your audio show. Like great audio shows are super fun, right? Old school wise, I love the Shadow. Like I think everybody did, and be able to do your kind of take on that now is again, it's another way to tell your story.
Well, the actors are fabulous. Chip did a fabulous job. He carried a heavy load. He was the audio engineer, the director, and the composer. Fortunately now a lot of that basic stuff is done. Um, I think our basic cast is once would be happy to come back. Um, but yeah, I just got to figure out what story I want to tell because I don't like telling the same story. Even though Chip said that, oh, you could turn the first six issue miniseries into an audio drama. He's absolutely right. I just don't want to do that.
Why not? You like originality. I get that you said that, but is there another reason for that? It feels like there's some other reason behind that.
The first audio drama was very male centric, and I want the next audio drama to be more female centric, or at least to have a better balance. And the problem with the original 6-issue miniseries, it is very male centric, and that's just how it was written for the time and what I was doing. And if you've read the sequels, you can see how it's started to move away from that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's more from how do I put this? You want to
It's
be more conscious.
it's also creative. It's just a creative thing. I mean, and I want more balance. I think
Yeah.
balance is good.
Yeah, well, balance is. Yeah, I mean, you gotta tell the stories you feel you're inclined to tell, and there's nothing wrong with that. It just felt like no. I mean, it makes sense in one hand to do a comic as a drama, right? Like just from a logistics point of view, it's not that hard. You already have the dialogue, right? You just have to sneak in a little prose and a little description here and there, and you got yourself a really cool little story, right? It's not you already got it, but yeah, it's just not. You want to do something a little different. You want to keep the flow of what you've done.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. So,
Yeah.
how many issues have you done altogether?
With the 6-issue miniseries, 10. 10. With the sequels, it's 10. Yeah.
So you've done 10 issues. How many prose stuff?
We have a novel and the anthology, which
So
has
you
7 short stories, novellas in it. Yeah.
so
And the audio drama. And then I
and
also have a couple of short stories that aren't in Prelude that were published in other anthologies.
okay. So you built a little empire. So I guess I'm gonna ask this. I'm gonna ask this: is movie still the goal, or do you want to do this as a movie or a show at this point, or would you rather find something else?
Yeah, no, I would love to do it as a feature, a live action, or animated series. I mean, that would be great. For me, it would just be finding the right partner.
No, totally.
Yeah, I mean, I can wait. I'm not in a rush.
No, actually, that's the best. That's the best position to be in
Yeah,
because when you're neediness kills your leverage too, right? It's like I want this, like okay, well, you give
yeah,
stuff up. Whereas in your case, like I got an audience, I got a fan base. I'm gonna keep building it and keep growing it, and then one day we're gonna wake up, and this is gonna be the thing. Every whatever's left of the bookstore and comic book store industries are gonna one day wake up, and there's just gonna be a ton of your books there. It's gonna be like she did it. She's now like that. The next, the overnight success of 20 years. Now she's like a bestseller everywhere. Why not?
why
Like,
not? Why not?
why not? Exactly. right?
Point.
You've worked very hard. Like honest to God, you've worked very hard to accomplish what you have. You've grown and you've made yourself a success. And honestly, again, you should be commended for it. You are definitely a person that any creative would look at to how to succeed in this. You are one of the people to really look at and model after in terms of business savvy and good stories too.
Well, thank you. Um, I get it. I'm always amazed when I get things done, and I just keep chipping away at it just a little bit at a time, and then I'm like, oh well, I guess I actually finished that. Yay!
So, like, no, I get this because what happens with me like this. This is my 826th show.
Wow.
Yeah, I've done a lot of these, right?
Yeah.
That was not the plan. Let me tell you, that guy didn't have plans. Just one day you wake up and you're like, huh, I've done the thing. Or, hey, I finally get to talk to you. Hey, I finally get to talk to this other cool person. You might see like no, I mean, you're the kind of person I enjoy chatting with because again, you've done a lot of cool things and you have a great story. So, but yeah, it's one of those moments when you realize that what I was going to say though is you have one of those like wake up moments where you realize that every once in a while you just realize when you finish a project or you've done something. Because I talked to an old friend today and it's like, well, what stuff have you done? And I just gave a list of stuff I've done for the last 5 years. I'm like, holy shit, I've done stuff.
Yeah.
How'd that happen? How'd that happen? Like literally, it's like the how that happened kind of moment. It's like, how did I do that? But I did, right?
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
and I feel like with you, it's probably the same thing. Like you had goals, you had a vision. I don't know. Actually, that's a good question. How close did your vision and reality come to be once you kind of made the commitment to go into comics, to go the comic route?
A lot of it, I've sort of been playing it by ear from story to story to story and seeing how far it would go and then realizing that, this is such a deep universe that it can be going on in different directions forever. But
Oh yeah.
as long as I want to keep producing material. But yeah, I mean, I have, because of the nature of production, I do have, 1, 2, 3 year goals just because I know certain things have to be done at certain times in order for, XYZ to happen. I do want to get back to the novels. I've finished the first one in a trilogy, which is about I call it House Wars. It's the Boston Metaphysical version of the Avengers of Evil. But instead, it's the northern and southern great houses that go to war against each other, and I introduce one of the characters, actually three of the characters, at the trade paperback of Volume 1. There's a short story in the back where you meet Gwen Dorick, who is the airship pilot and airship designer. She's one of the leads. And then Beatrice Weldsmore, who's head of the House of House Weldsmore, who you meet briefly. Well, you meet her a lot in it's called Steampunk Rat. It's a novella I wrote that's in Prelude. And because I wanted to do, you don't see this a lot unless it's mother and daughter, but I wanted the main relationship of the story between an older woman and a younger woman who aren't related. And usually you see it in a mother-daughter situation, but they're not a mother-daughter. They actually have more of a they don't get along very well most of the time. But
Yeah. Well, it's so I'm playing with I'm playing right now. I'm working on a novel right now. So it's alternative history, but it's parallel universes. It's like an urban fantasy thriller with parallel universes and the Night Witches.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I saw. I clicked on it.
I know who the Night Witches are. Yeah.
Yeah. Not everybody does, right? They're like some of the biggest badasses in history. Actually,
Yeah,
it's like
absolutely.
yeah. But one of the things is so what I've been doing is and I'm not going to name names because I don't want to die. Right. So some of the strongest women I've ever met, I've kind of put into this unit, and then I'm like imagining how would they get along. Some of them would get along great. Some of them would hate each other.
Yes.
So it's kind of because what happens is when you have very strong personalities in a room, guys or women, either way, there's a pecking order, quote unquote, like a quote unquote pecking order that has to kind of be established. And when you have very strong-willed people, that doesn't come easy. Usually, there's a lot of give and a lot of tape. Women do it slightly different than guys. Sometimes I think you guys are nastier, actually. I feel like sometimes you're the nastier ones. We're just like, we're simple. We just settle it one way and that's it, right? But it's essentially the same thing. Usually the strongest personality runs, or the most organized, or some kind of strength that runs the whole show. And I say it like that, but even so, there's like little rivalries. There's like, it's just a normal thing. But again, I'm not naming names because again, I don't want to die. I just don't want to die because they're stronger than me, and again, I don't want to be a pretzel. Like not. But no, it's one of the things I realized. Like, there's not a lot of that dynamic out there. Just like another dynamic that's not really out there very much. I did an interview with a science fiction author around the early 700s, and I realized, like, from a strong female protagonist point on television, right? If you're going to movies and TV, science fiction, fantasy kind of thing, you have Sarah Connor, Ripley, Major Kira. And then when I'm trying to think of a really strong female protagonist, it's hard to find another one. They're not common at all.
Oh, well, in science fiction, they are quite a bit. In science fiction and fantasy, you'll see them quite a bit. I mean, in Wheel of Time.
I haven't seen the show yet. I have seen the novels, the books. Yes, absolutely. The books. They're all like, all the women are my favorites in the Wheel of Time novels. I like Nina Eve. I think she's hilarious. Moraine's. I think Moraine's very interesting. I think what's the old? I can't remember the old one, the oldest one, like
I'm
been long.
Names, but there's also the characters from Firefly. The character that Gina Torres played. And,
I never saw Firefly. I'm gonna be very honest with you. I've never seen it.
No, you would love it, and the character that Gina Torres plays is just wonderful.
Yeah, maybe and I know someone's gonna hear me. It's like, why didn't you see Firefly? It's just, honestly, I just never gotten around to it. I've seen it like an episode or two, but it's not. I see why people like it, but it's not. It's not Babylon 5 or DS9. Those are the shows I really like.
And also in The Expanse, the female characters in The Expanse were just off the hook. Mm-hmm. So they were amazing. Complex female characters in leadership roles are very common in science fiction and fantasy.
Yeah.
What you won't see it in is basically everything else.
Yes. Which is too bad. I think there's some great characters. Like, there's some really great characters, and some great actresses that can definitely pull it off.
The Expanse killed it when it came to female characters. So
I'll have to watch it. Like I said, I am so out of the loop. I am not like Madeleine. I'm not cool. I'm okay with this. I'm not cool. Right. So, because I would love to keep chatting with you. I really, really would. So
I have to go walk the dogs.
I know. That's why I'm kind of going. I would love to keep chatting with you, but there's a but. So before you leave, can you do me a wonderful favor? Plug something. Like, plug something where people can look at and go, and where I can actually put up here so people can see, and then how people can find you.
Well, obviously, Boston Metaphysical Society, a steampunk supernatural series in graphic novel, prose, and now audio drama called The Ghost Ship, which you can see. Actually, you can download that on any of your favorite podcasting platforms, from Spotify and the rest. And the comics you can pick up either from me through my web store, through my website, or Source Point Press, who distributes them. The lovely people over there, Travis and Josh, and the rest of the crew, of course. And so I start slowing down here in the evening. And then the novel you can obviously pick up through Amazon and all ebook platforms. A Prelude, and this is new. Prelude is the second edition is now out. It has a new cover and it's been re-edited and reformatted. So that is now available also on Amazon and all ebook platforms. You're gonna love the new cover. It's just so great. I needed to update that. It was just bugging me so much. I like had to redo it.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask this really, really nicely. Could you please come back when we have a little bit more time, because there's a lot more we could play with. I think.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Absolutely.
Definitely. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that for next time. So for everybody watching, everybody listening, this is the great Madeleine Holly-Rosing. She is awesome, and I'm not. And she's laughing at me, right? Because like I'm not that. I'm not that great. So anyway, before I wrap up, check out if you are interested in advertising your book or project. This is definitely my website. You can go check that out right now. It's available. I put words, graphics, audio, and video for people. And like I said, hopefully next time we do this, it won't be quite as noisy in the Starbucks. Like it was just like a timing thing. It's like, of course. But for everybody watching, everybody listening, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Tomorrow night, I got Andrew Cooper. It's gonna be a fun show. All right, guys, take care of yourselves. Be good to each other. I'll see you guys tomorrow.